We left off talking about Dr. Zaretta Hammond's 5 trust generators, 5 ways to intentionally build trust so we can free up the brain for other activities like creativity and learning and higher order thinking. We know that we build trust by being more authentic and vulnerable. So we're going to practice now. And we're going to start by practicing selective vulnerability. So I want you to consider a time when you had to learn something new, or you were forced to grow in some way. It was probably uncomfortable. It definitely highlighted some human imperfection, some mistakes that you were making, some lessons learned the hard way. Maybe it's embarrassing. And I want you to think about this experience in one of these 5 categories. Maybe it's physical activity, sports, or injury, right? Cooking. Maybe you moved somewhere where there were ingredients unfamiliar to you. Maybe you moved out on your own and had to cook for yourself for the first time. Maybe you just spent a long time really learning how to do it well, and there were plenty of mistakes along the way. Parenting is another category to think about. I could spend the entire training telling you all of my human imperfections around parenting. I'm sure if you're a parent, you have some to share as well. What lessons have we learned the hard way? Moving, right? Moving to a new location, a new home. What kind of mistakes have we made? What kind of lessons have we learned? How have we grown as it relates to moving? And pet ownership is another category to consider. What funny stories, embarrassing stories, human imperfections can we highlight when it comes to pet ownership? And so I want you to take your journal or your paper, and I want you to write a story of yours, a story that highlights some human imperfection in one of these categories. And write the story as though you're sharing it with a friend. Write the story as though you're really practicing what it means to be selectively vulnerable. You're not trying to make yourself look good, or you're not trying to highlight the best parts. You're just telling the story as it is and sharing your truth. So go ahead and pause the video here and write your story. When you're done, you can unpause and we'll continue. Now that you've written your story, we have some questions for you to consider. So first, how did it feel to write this vulnerable story? How did it feel to put onto paper these human imperfections that you have, that we all have? It might have felt uncomfortable. It might have felt natural. It might have felt like you weren't sure what the next step was here and how much should you share in this moment. And so how does it feel to consider sharing it with somebody else? If I asked you to go find somebody and to read them your story or to tell them your story, how would that feel? What kind of experiences would that make your body have? Does it make your heart beat faster? Does it make you nervous? Does it make you excited? And as we think about what happens when we share our vulnerable moments, we know that the other piece of this is listening. When people listen, they create a space where we can be selectively vulnerable, where we can share these moments, where we feel seen and heard and understood by another human. And that's the connection we want you to make with our scholars in school. That's the connection that's so important as we get to know students and as we ensure that they are set up for success. And so we think about these feelings we have, and we think about what it would feel like for somebody to listen to our vulnerable story and not judge, but just listen, and not jump in with their own connections, but just listen. Listen for understanding, listen for our truth, listen to understand who we are. And so we want you to think about how you can apply that mindset to your work with scholars in our schools. How does that feel to consider sitting down with a kid and practicing selective vulnerability? Because that will create a space where scholars can also practice selective vulnerability that lays the foundation for success of our students in school. And so as we close this video, we want you to think about how you will practice selective vulnerability in school, how you will also practice familiarity and similarity of interests and concern and competence. So as we close this video, take a moment to write down some next steps for yourself. How will you practice Dr. Hammond's trust generators when you enter into our schools as a volunteer?